Welcome back. And as we all know that President Abdel al-Sisi and Egypt First Lady Mrs. Intisar al-Sisi, they received Prince Charles of Wales and his wife Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, at the Ittihadiyya Palace on Thursday. And of course it is considered the first visit for Prince Charles in 15 years. And also on Thursday, Prince Charles and his wife, they visited downtown Cairo, and they met with the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib, and the meeting tapped on harmony among followers of different religions and the role of religion in preserving the environment. They also discussed bolstering religious ties between Egypt and the UK. And with us live here in the studio is Dr. Ibrahim Hegazy, former Member of Parliament, and he's going to be elaborating over this visit of the Prince of Wales. Good morning, Dr. Hegazy.
Good morning, Dina.
Let's first talk about the significance of that visit. This is a visit for Prince of Wales in 15 years. He visited Egypt before at a totally different time. How do you elaborate? How do you assess this visit by Prince Charles to Egypt?
I think it's very important to know the reason why he's exactly pick up this particular time of the year. Number one, as I know that he's personally very interested for many years to come to Egypt and to visit on private basis the Western Oasis because he spent his vacation there. But obviously because I believe because of what happened in Egypt as revolutions and then following this after that with the COVID, then it's very clear why he's not, he didn't come before. And I think also we have to look at COP26, which took place in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago, and the outcomes of the declaration that was announced by the head of the United Nations, they call it the Conference of Parties, COP. And one of the outcomes was the dissemination of funding for developing countries for the climate change and improvements and enhancements of the green economies and the green movements. And when you look at this amount that they have allocated for climate change over the next couple of years, you find it's well over $100 billion US. And that's why I think considering Brexit and what happened with the British going out of the EU, their eye is on Africa. And looking at Egypt and the good credibility now financially and non-financially in the international markets, Egypt is considered a big hub for British companies, especially if they want to benefit from the different bilateral relationships and agreements that are made between Egypt and the African continent. And bear in mind also they take into consideration that Egypt was the head of the African Union a couple of years ago, and Egypt is putting her eye nowadays on Africa, especially with the Renaissance Dam and what's going on. So interest of Egypt in Africa, and Egypt is becoming a hub, and one of our 2030 strategic sustainable development plan is that we want to be a global player. And that's why I think they wouldn't find better than Egypt to use it as the hub to disseminate their businesses in Africa as well. So I think this is the reason why Prince Charles came to Egypt. Twofolded, a private one I believe and also an official one. Bear in mind that before coming to Egypt he was in Jordan, and he was talking about the same thing, about the environment, about the climate change, and about helping Jordan as well as in Egypt to develop their plans.
Right. Also among his stops, important stops in this visit is visiting Old Cairo and going to Al-Azhar Mosque and meeting with Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, Sheikh Ahmed Al-Tayyib. He is very much keen, Prince Charles, over the role of religion in preserving environment, in bringing nations together and respecting the other, and the right definition of each religion. I mean, he has a special concern and focus over that. So talk to us about that particular stop in his visit.
You have to know, I think he's heading one of the largest NGOs in the United Kingdom related to relations between religions. And in fact, also he gave a lot of speeches about Islam in the UK to see the tolerance of our religion. And he is a very good person who reads well different religions. And that's why I think the first thing that he went to is to visit Al-Azhar and to meet the big imam.
Right. So interrelations, he calls it, and I mean, that's a very good message, especially amidst what's happening worldwide and the wrong image that is given about Islam.
Exactly, yeah.
And some militants and some people with some interests, personal interests, trying to talk on behalf of Islam.
That's right.
That we could use, or I mean, we could be investing on that,
Yes.
that particular stop. Also, talking about the efforts made by Egypt in the field of environmental protection and facing the negative effects of climate change. How do you evaluate or assess Egypt's continuous efforts and President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's remarks on every front and every meeting that he is engaged in talking about climate change,
Yep.
the importance of standing up to climate change and fighting the environmental changes, preserving the rights of environment? If you'd like to elaborate over this.
Sure. You have to know that Egypt next year will be hosting the COP27. And, you know, talking even about the climate change. And that's why I think Egypt wants to play a major role in the future regarding climate change and renewable energy. As you know, we are trying to be a major hub to export later on our renewable energy. Most of the new projects that the mega projects that we have in Egypt are related to climate improvements. And it's very strange to know that Egypt have signed one of the first government bonds, and it's called Green Bond, meaning, and I think it's in the value of 0.75 million euro, which is not a large amount, but it's an indicator that Egypt is diversifying its funding, not just to help the local activities, but also to help Egypt in its pursuit of economic green developments. And so that's give you an idea of where Egypt is heading in the future. It's heading for renewable energy. It's heading for the sustainability of our projects away from pollutions and environment pollutions. And yesterday they were projecting about the statistic, which is the highly polluted cities. It was in Pakistan and India as well. So luckily enough, we are diminishing our ranking in being polluted as a country, and I think also this reflects on a better standard of living and better health as well. Plus, the funding in the future is definitely going to be directed toward any climate protection and climate enhancement projects, and I think this was a good move by the president to attend, of course, the COP26, and to give a very impressive speech about Egypt's role in the future, and that's we are hosting and we're sponsoring a lot of green projects in Egypt. So it's a good thing that we are hosting this, because it gives a global signal to the globe and the entire world that we are adapting our strategies and our long-term visions to be one of the major players in the green economy. The question is, why would British investment come to Egypt? Obviously because of the stability, because of security. When you look around the Middle East, very, very few countries are politically stable, economically stable.
That's true.
And also, as well as security. And I see also another benefit from the visit of His Royal Highness Prince Charles, because of tourism. We know that since 2015, Britain have banned traveling to Egypt, especially for our resort areas of the country like Hurghada and Sharm el-Sheikh. So I think even after they elevated this ban, with the big head or the head of the state, like His Royal Highness coming to Egypt,
that's
in that particular time, I'm sure this will pour into more tourism coming to Egypt, and that can help our economy, because you know there is a lot of feeding industries that surround tourism as well, and so that I think will be a good boost, especially that we are coming to the season, and season in Europe is actually the Christmas time,
of course.
and Egypt weather is the best. Considering also, if he came, then the government, the UK government, the British government should have considered the state of our pandemic, and I think we are in controlling, especially when you have 100 million, and even if statistics say maybe less than 900, And even if you say you triple this amount to 3,000 and 4,000, considering that we have 100 million, I think this gives a peace of mind for travelers who would like to come to Egypt and book their vacations during December and and the beginning of the year. So this is, you know, in many areas. And the visit was on time. The visit gave signals to both Egypt and to UK that Egypt is a good place to invest, and Egypt a good place to visit as well. So it's a good.
Right, and also let us also focus over, or not forget that very popular photo or shot taken by the pyramids plateau at the background, where the Prince of Wales was standing and the Duchess of Cornwall. Also, this is a very good signal for the Britons to be able to consider visiting Egypt and spending, like you kindly said, Christmas time in that particular beautiful weather of Egypt and seeing different places. How does that reflect over economy, and especially the tourism venue? I mean, of course, as we all know, the tourism is starting to catch up and boom, not from the British side, but other fronts also. So how do you assess this, or how does that reflect over economy and tourism?
Sure. You know, when you have head of state visiting another country, it automatically means that I'm giving signals to my followers as businessmen or business corporations to come and to pursue investment opportunities. Let me give you some statistics. Number one, you have to know that UK is the largest foreign direct investor in Egypt. So, you know, in the couple of years, I think as His Excellency, the Ambassador Bailey, the UK ambassador in Egypt, spoke about it, that the total investment of companies, British companies in Egypt, is well exceeding the 50 billion sterling pounds. And I think lately it just came up to 5.4 billion sterling pounds as foreign direct investment in Egypt. And when you look at how many companies are investing in Egypt, British ones, we're talking about 1,640 companies that are operating currently in Egypt. So you can imagine the size of British companies' interest and British businessmen' interest in Egypt. So with the head, His Royal Highness, coming to Egypt, it also gave it a security that the two governments are in good terms, because sometimes, you know, during the revolution, there was this kind of frictions between the two governments for many reasons. So this tends to make people shy away and businesses shy away from this particular location. But when you have the head coming with his First Lady, this is a good signal that we are in good terms.
A change of heart.
Of course, yeah, of course. We are in good terms, and I think also they have interest, because there is money to be dispersed now for climate change projects, for economy or green economy projects. And so they would like to be, first. The question is, which country shall I invest in, or shall I disseminate the funding for climate change? Now, if Egypt is going to be the next one hosting the COP27 next year, then obviously Egypt has interest, and that's why we asked for accepting by the United Nations that we host the next conference for climate change. And I think also there is a lot of bilateral negotiation going on now between Egypt and the UK in terms of education. You can see in the new administrative capital there is so many or a decent number of good reputable universities that have branches now in the administrative capital. So that's one way, is to give the human resources the ability of the know-how. The second, the UK is the largest energy and gas and oil exploration in Egypt. Bear in mind that we have what we call the Golden Triangle, which is located in the Red Sea. And I think there are mega projects there. And as far as I know from my previous communication with the UK company that did the project feasibility study, they have very keen eye on exploring the mineral resources of Egypt that exist in the Red Sea or in the shores of the Red Sea. You also have to consider that in the future, we started now to export gold We have concessions, and we have offered these tenders for international companies to explore gold and gold mining. And so this is all, opportunities for companies which would like to expand beyond the borders of their national countries. And I think considering the historical relationship, even before 1952 revolution, you can see that UK will always have an eye to be in Egypt, an eye to work with Egyptians, and this is very clear.
But that eye is developing and evolving and changing and moving onto different levels.
Yeah.
And showing good signals, actually.
Yeah.
Not because of their change of mind, but it's because of how Egypt is blooming and how Egypt is blossoming into better image and, developing and taking itself into a totally new level. Let's also talk about the visit that included the Prince meeting with the young entrepreneurs from private sectors, and they discussed business development opportunities. They talked on an innovative and environmentally friendly manner in Egypt.
Yeah.
That was also another important stop.
Yes. Again, it's good to develop infrastructures. That's my personal assessment. But it's more important, and I keep saying this since I'm in the education sector, if you have good infrastructure without good talent skills, then how are we going to make the best usage of these infrastructures? And I think Egypt also is moving toward entrepreneurship and venture capitals and startup businesses. And so that's why the first thing that I noticed that why when you look at the higher education, and especially the new universities that open their international branches in the administrative capital, most of them are British universities and Canadian universities. And that gives you an idea that one way of building relationships with another country, considering the colonization that used to take place before 1952, you can see that always the United Kingdom has an eye on Egyptian talents. And it's very clear, if you look at Magdi Aouf, for instance, our beloved guru in heart surgeries, he's a sir. He was taking the title from Queen Elizabeth II. And we have a lot of examples like Dr. Magdi Aouf, who also work in the United Kingdom. So talking with entrepreneurs and trying to get a touch, the reason I believe, because looking at the profile and the personality of His Royal Highness Prince Charles, he's the one who listened very well, and he has the ability of understanding when people talk. And so you see him, frequently listening to people, mingling with people, talking with them, and the way he talks, you feel that he's trying to open up a friendly relationship. And I think by talking to entrepreneurs, the reason is to try to convince them of working as ideas with the British. And number two is to understand how can they, the British, help our young entrepreneurs and young startup. Bear in mind, I'm sure they know about all of this, the 6% of our population is a fresh young population. And so if you give them the right education, if you give them the right know-how of using the new technologies that they would like to share, because I heard that one of the agendas meetings that are going to take place during this visit or even before, there was another visit that came to Egypt. I think the minister, the UK minister for the Middle East, he was, I think, a week earlier in Egypt to discuss about this issue of dissemination and transfer of a know-how. So know-how, in addition to the mega projects that the UK is interested in, I think this is part of how they export. UK is not just good in terms of oil exploration, as we know many international companies that are there,
yes,
but also they are good in education. And so part of our developments, as far as I know from His Excellency Minister Shawki, we have a lot of alliance with UK education systems.
Right. And this very important note Unfortunately, we have to end it here, though that we have too many other elements to talk about. But it's really a very promising visit and a very prosperous one. Dr. Ibrahim Hegazy, you're a former member of Parliament. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dina, for inviting me, and I wish you a nice weekend.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. And I guess we're going to go to a short break, and we'll come to continue the breakfast show, so stay with us.